Hello everybody, this is HD Shaves here. I'm back on the video. Hope this finds you well and in good spirits. Well, it is now the second weekend in April, and so I imagine that most of us here in the US have already been on their spring break, so I hope everybody had a great spring break. I'm very happy to be home after over a week, something like 10 days. I was away in Tennessee and Mexico City. And so I'll talk to you more about that as the video goes along. The highlight of today's video is this razor right here, the Blackland Blackbird. However, I'll take off the handle so you can see. This is the light version. You can see right there. A kind friend and supporter of the channel sent this my way to try out. Thank you very much. You know who you are. And this was a nice thing to return home to be able to try out. Those who have been following my channel for a long time, I must have last used the Blackbird. I didn't look, but it feels like it's been at least 2 years, maybe 3. And I've always loved the look of the razor, but the original version is just far too aggressive for me. And from what I understand, this light version, the base plate makes it about half as aggressive, or it's half the exposure. I'm pretty sure it's advertised as half as aggressive, which that seems like a good place to start for me, because I found the original so aggressive that half, okay, sure, that sounds good. We're going to put in a Polsilver Super Iridium blade. And so, yeah, so far I've really been enjoying this razor. It's going to go on a little pass around, I think, so I'll send it off to the next person on Monday. I've always loved with this razor how it has this little recessed bit here, so that when you screw the handle in, it just feels extra secure, and I think it kind of looks cool too. Once again, does that have any function? I'm not so sure, but it looks cool, feels good, all that stuff. Okay, this is the standard handle, stainless steel, and this is the machined finish. I know some people have not enjoyed the machined finish from Blackland in the past, but to me, I have no issues with this whatsoever. Then again, finishing is not really my main thing. Okay, so that's the razor. And in honor of the spring-like weather that I think a lot of us have been experiencing, I decided let's use Declaration Grooming Mayflower in the Icarus base, which I feel like is probably the least popular out of the 3 bases that he's released, and so it's always nice to give it a little bit of a showtime, if you will. This is described by Scott as being a spring scent for people who don't like florals. It's got a good amount of tobacco and then some sort of florals in the background to support it. We're going to be using the Yaqi Rainbow Synthetic, just to try to be as objective as possible about using the razor. We're going to get some water through the brush, and let's start loading the soap, shall we? Yeah, I've been using the Mayflower Eau de Parfum a couple times this week already, and that's been really nice as well. Even on days where I didn't shave, it's a nice scent, and I don't think it's currently for sale by Scott, but he did at some point release it in all 3 of the bases. I know it came in Bison, I have the Icarus here, and then I want to say for Milk Stick he did kind of a short run, perhaps. And I remember also for that he made the fragrance with the new updated bottle labels that he makes, which are quite cool. So yeah, to celebrate spring, let's use a little bit of Mayflower. This is loading up much easier than I remember. I swear, I did use this week, right? No, I don't think so. I think I finished off a couple soap samples, and then I was just using the Eau de Parfum to kind of get me in the scent spirit, if you will. But I don't know actually if I used the soap this week. Maybe once. we've got a little more growth than usual. This is 3 days, which to some of you is still probably not very much, but yeah, it's been, so I've been home for how long? Let's see. Today's Saturday, and I returned home on Sunday. So I haven't even been home a week. And of the time I was gone, I was in Knoxville, Tennessee for 3 days, and Mexico City for 7. And Mexico City was second on the list, right? So it was a little bit of culture shock getting back here, that's for sure. I would say after about 2 or 3 days down there, my mind started to think in Spanish, and I wasn't having to like translate as much as possible, or translate kind of as much as I did on the first couple days. And you know, for any of you who are interested in getting better at a foreign language, there's really no substitute for dropping yourself into a city where that's the primary language. So that was great to get back into kind of the Mexican Spanish mindset, and then also just their culture. You know, they're very no one's really ever in a rush, and they're very affectionate people. So it's common that when you meet a man, you give them kind of the bro handshake, you give them a hug, and then you shake their hand again. And you do that when you meet them and when you leave. And then with a woman, it's a kiss on one cheek, and then you hug, and then that's it. But you still do it on the way in and the way out. So I am totally cool doing that when I'm down there. It's different than the culture I was raised in, right? But like I said, it was a little bit of a culture shock when I got back here to the U.S. And now I'm starting to remember that this is where I live, and it can't be Mexico City all the time, right? So yeah, it's almost 1 week of me being back, and it was a really nice trip. It was really good to see some friends I had not seen in 4, 5 more years in some cases, and it was really good to just gonna finish it up here. Maybe one more water. Icarus likes a drink, to use a simplified lathering term. Yeah, it was really good to see some people, really good to play music, of course. And it was cool too, because all 3 gigs I played were completely different. Yes, they were all kind of under the jazz umbrella, you might say, but the style of music and kind of the context of the music was very different. So to give you a quick rundown on those, the first gig was in Knoxville, and that was with a couple of guys I went to college with, and we probably played hundreds of hours of music, maybe thousands of hours of music together. And so playing with them was very much like just sort of settling back in to driving a car or something that you hadn't driven in a while, but you used to. Just very easy, and that was very much my sort of a bag, if you will, for the kind of music that we were playing. It was music that was very familiar to me. So that gig was by far the most comfortable and easy, but I kind of figured it would be that way. Okay, let's go for the first pass with the Blackland Blackbird Lite. And for the angle with this razor, this has been about what I've found to be the best. This razor's got a good amount of weight to it. You don't have to push down very much at all. And I feel like there's just enough blade exposure that it's easy to feel if it's cutting and if you have the right angle. So that was the first gig in Knoxville, and then I had 2 gigs in Mexico. The first one was in a town. It's not a town. They probably have 1 million people there. In a city not far from Mexico called Querétaro. It's like 2.5 hours northwest of Mexico City if you drive, and that's at least the part we saw. It was a very nice area. Kind of surprisingly nice, maybe too nice. I kind of compare it to cities and suburbs, you know, here in the US. It would be like if you, that's maybe a decent example. It would be like if you spent a bunch of time in Detroit, Michigan, and you got used to kind of the culture there, and then you drove out to what's a good town? Like maybe you drove to like Grand Rapids or something. Yes, they're in the same state, and yes, Grand Rapids is still a large city, but they're very different, right? So all of us were kind of surprised by that, and I guess that kind of shows you the kind of area and the venue that we played. You know, it's like if the worst thing you have to say about a place is that it was too nice. that's not such a bad thing. So that was the second gig, and that music was all the original music of the bassist I was playing with, and that music is very difficult, very modern, and so that required a lot of concentration on my part and a lot of practice. Nonetheless, thanks to the people I was playing with, we were still able to have a really good time, and it wasn't like the difficulty of the music inhibited me from, you know, being artistic with the way I played, which is sometimes an issue. Nice first pass. I really haven't had any issues at all with this razor this week, so I think that speaks a lot to it. I'm going to rinse, come back for pass number 2, and then I'll tell you about the final gig in Mexico City. Cheers. Pass number 2 with Mayflower. This Icarus Mayflower lather is doing really well. Honestly, if I had to pick one of the bases from Declaration, it would be this one. The only issue with it is that it does have a good amount of bass funk, you might say. And so depending on the scent that you pick, sometimes that can get in the way. To me, that doesn't get in the way at all with this soap, but I've tried others where it was a little too much. So, second pass will go across the grain, mostly. So the final gig in Mexico City was at a place I had been to once before and followed since then. I think the one and only time I went there before was in maybe 2017 or something, and it's a very casual kind of place, and it's the total opposite of the second place I played, in that I don't think anybody would say that this final venue was too nice, but it always has a good vibe kind of amongst the people that are there. Everyone's very supportive, and I guess that's the thing I meant to say, that can sometimes, if a place is too quote unquote nice as a music venue, that can sometimes get in the way of kind of the camaraderie between the musicians, between the audience, and so that's why sometimes we have a negative association with venues that are a little bit too fancy. So the final gig, again, definitely not too nice. Definitely kind of a dive. But that gig, we played mostly my music, my choice of songs. And so, in theory, you would think that that would be the easiest of the 3 gigs because I get to pick what we play. And, you know, it's my music, right? So I should be familiar with it. But actually, because of my musical personality, I don't usually like to be the leader because it implies that I have to make sure that everybody knows what's going on and everybody's clear on what we're going to do and stuff like that. So I would say the very first gig was the most enjoyable for me because I wasn't the leader. I just got to sit down, do my job. That's it. But the final gig was still really nice, and I'm thankful to the people that agreed to play my music with me and the people that came out also. Thanks to those people. One of them might be watching. Okay, let's do final rinse, and then we'll do third pass. This is a really nice razor. Final third pass with Mayflower. All right, and for the third pass, we'll go against the grain mostly. For going against the grain with this razor, you really don't need to push much at all. The weight of the razor, I think, helps you out. I mean, I'm going so lightly. Certainly much lighter than I would be going with, say, my beloved aluminum carb overlander, just as a comparison. And yeah, I hope that people can check out Mexico City if they want to in the future, and they haven't. It's a beautiful city, so much history. I often think of it as perhaps my favorite city in the whole world. I would love to live there at some point, but the nature of my job is that it really suits me to live in the U.S. When it comes to jazz, everybody always looks in to the U.S. and for the kind of music that I want to play, it's best if I live here. So perhaps when I get older and don't have to work as much, then maybe I could move. Knoxville is a tough case, I felt like, because first I should say I had kind of a biased view on the whole thing because my friend has been a professor there for the past 3 years, and he and his fiance have decided that as they are about to get married and have kids and all this, they don't really envision themselves living in Knoxville. And I will say that Knoxville is definitely better than I anticipated. At least it looks nicer. I think Knoxville is one of those cities like Detroit, I don't know, maybe Columbus, places like that, like large U.S. cities that unfortunately in the 1900s people moved out, away from the city, and then there wasn't much reason for people to go into the city. And so then some of those places kind of started to go downhill. And I know that Knoxville put a lot of money into making their downtown area look quite nice, which it does. But I also understand the reason why my friends don't want to stay there long term. They feel like, you know, they've spent their time there, and they sort of got out of the city, but they needed to. But yeah, it was also kind of sad to hear their take on how the city has treated them, and I definitely understand why they wouldn't want to stay. And it was basically visiting both of those cities. It was a good reminder that I'm happy to live here in Chicago, where I do, and I shouldn't leave here anytime soon. Okay, 3 passes done. Feels very, very good. Like super, super smooth, which is one of the benefits of using these modern razors, in my opinion. So we're going to do a final rinse, and I'll come back and talk to you over post-shave. Stay tuned. Okay, I just finished my usual cold water rinse. Felt really nice. And I think I got maybe one little weeper right here. But throughout this whole week, I've used this razor maybe 4 times, and I've never gotten more than just like a little weeper. So moral of the story is, if you were like me years ago, you thought that the Blackbird was a good looking razor, but it was just too aggressive for you, I can recommend the Lite. My only, I guess, issue with this razor is I'm not a big fan of the Lite branding. It kind of makes me feel like I'm consuming like a Miller Lite, L-I-T-E, which, don't get me wrong, there's a time and place for it, but it feels a little bit cheap to me, the way that it's marketed. You know, like just from the name. When you look at the razor, you can tell that it's obviously well done, and you're definitely getting what you pay for in that sense. And I know that, you know, Blackland has a very good returns policy, and they're very communicative if you have issues and whatever. But yeah, I'm not a fan of the Lite, L-I-T-E. I felt like there was maybe a better word that they could have used that didn't sound as cheap. So that's my only gripe. Okay, let's use the matching splash, Declaration Grooming Mayflower. It's had some leakage over the years, and so maybe you can see that the level is, it's only about halfway. But I think this is going to have menthol in it, because this was the time when all of these splashes did. Oh, that's right. And this one doesn't have a restrictor, so this is going to be fun. Be very careful. Okay, see, and even this will be a good amount. Really nice scent, and absorbs quickly. Declaration has always had a really good alcohol-based splash, and it's great that in recent years they've made the menthol optional. I think I feel the menthol coming out now. See if it's listed. Yeah. Okay, so that's the menthol I'm feeling. Okay, great. So we use Mayflower Splash. We use Mayflower Soap. If you're like me and you prefer kind of a firmer base, and you want to try something old, I can definitely recommend Icarus. Yeah, Milkshake is too soft for my preferences, and well, maybe I'll switch to something firmer in the future. We use the Yaqi Rainbow Synthetic. Just can't get enough of this brush, especially if I'm using some unfamiliar pieces of gear. And finally, the Blackland Blackbird Lite. I want to thank my friend again who sent this over to me, and I'm interested to hear what the other people in the pass around group think of it. So, okay, talked a lot about music in this video today. Hope you all enjoyed it. Hope you all had a great spring break again, and hope everybody's doing well. Okay, for now, this has been HD Shaves. Take care. We'll see you again next time. Goodbye.